Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Deciding to Soar, Living Life Your Own Way. My name is Sharron Jamison, and I'm so grateful that you are here. I know that there are many other places where you can be, but you took time out of your schedule to be with me today. And so I appreciate your time. I appreciate your effort. And I appreciate your presence. So thank you. And if you're new to me, I am a minister, a healer, a leadership coach, a mentor, an author, a mom, and I play a variety of other roles. And I bring lessons from all those different aspects of my life to support you on your journey to soaring higher than you have ever soared before in your career, in your relationships, in your own endeavors. And today I want to share something that I had to learn the hard way, and that is about shifts, because shifts happen. And when you are going through shifts in your careers, in your families, in your personal life, in your faith-based organization, it's never good to go through those shifts alone. And I had to really learn that lesson when I was going through a divorce almost 26 years ago, and I became a single mom. And I had to go through some major shifts in my life. I had to shift my routines. I had to shift my thinking. It shifted my identity because I was no longer a married person. And the shifts were hard because the shifting was just not about strategy and logistics. It was about needing support, because it doesn't matter how motivated you are, how mature you are, how mindful you are. Life has a way of feeling heavy at times, especially when you feel the most vulnerable. And when it does, you don't need plans. You just don't need preparation. You need some people that you can trust. Because when I was going through that transition in my life, I was feeling scared and overwhelmed. I was exhausted. And the biggest mistake I made early on was trying to hide and trying to do all of the shifting and logistics and the healing all by myself. And so today I want to talk about something I entitled Shift Support, and why sustainable transformation is something that you don't need to do alone. You need support. You deserve support, because shifting is never a solo expedition. And so I want us to talk about that and also offer some lessons that might help you along the way. So let's get started and really be honest about why is shifting hard? Why does shifting feel so hard? And the reason is because we have been taught some narratives that make shifting difficult. And so we carry these invisible weights around that make it difficult to ask for help. For example, there are inherited forces like generational expectations or family patterns that teach us to stay silent, to stay small, or to stay in our place. There are internal forces when we are going through shifts where we feel a lot of fear and shame and guilt and self-doubt. There are sometimes we hear whispers in our souls that ask us, who do you think you are? And what if you fail? And then there are some institutional forces that we deal with when we are shifting. Institutional forces like systems and structures that were not built with you and I in mind. For example, workplaces sometimes don't support mothers. Policies that penalize single parenthoods. Cultures that reward burnout over balance. And so I want you to know that when you are going through shifts, those weights are there. Inherited forces, which are also societal expectations, internal forces, institutional forces, and all of those forces feel like burdens. And when you're feeling vulnerable, you don't need another burden, because when you are feeling like you already are carrying the weight of the world, you need something called shift support. It's a sacred support system that cheers for you and prays with you and walks beside you. It's those types of shift support that maybe if you're going through an illness, goes to the hospital or the doctor with you, or if you're going through a custody battle like I did, I needed someone to go to the court system with me. We need all types of support, and we need to give ourselves permission to be human and to realize that nobody shifts alone. And all of these narratives that we have learned about being a lone wolf narrative and the strong black woman myth and you don't need anybody mindset. All of that is a lie, because those are not examples of strength. Doing things alone is not an example of strength. Sometimes it's an example of suffering. And real strength comes from understanding that we are interdependent. Real power comes to us knowing that we can reach out for help or reach up for help. And if we remember that we can't ask for help, and that help doesn't mean that we're weak, and that needing rest when you're tired doesn't mean that you're not disciplined, we can really challenge that strong woman narrative so that we can start looking at our lives differently and asking for what we need and being okay with needing support and mentoring and coaching and guidance. Because when we're going through all of those changes, sometimes we have to remember that we are not having a breakdown, we're having a breakthrough, or we are becoming who we were called to be. And just sometimes a little reminder can give us the motivation, the encouragement to keep moving forward when we want to give up. So those are those three types of forces. But also I want to talk about what shift support really looks like, so you can have an idea of examples that you can maybe offer to someone else, or some examples that you just can own that you might need this type of support yourself. The first type of support I love to name is friendship circles or community circles or reflection circles. And these are spaces where you can tell the truth. You can fall apart. You can be reminded that you're not alone. And sometimes that can look like a group coaching program or a sister circle where people are just listening to you and not trying to fix you, right? And we all need people who will just listen to us and not give us suggestions yet, but just give us support. Because sometimes there's so much going on in our minds and our spirits, we don't need a to-do list. We just need someone by our side, listening, loving us, motivating us, and reminding us how powerful we really are. So some type of community sister reflection circle. The second thing that we need that looks like shift support is like some type of somebody to help us with this strategic mapping. Because like I said before, shifting from single to married, or married to single, or from one city to another city, to job, or to being a caregiver, to not being a caregiver. That shifting isn't just emotional, it's logistical. And so it's really helpful when we are shifting that we have someone to help us create schedules, have someone to help us create new financial plans and create new boundaries. We need someone to maybe help us prioritize what's important, so we're not spending all of our energy and effort in places that won't really be helpful for the next season in our lives. So I want you to think about if you're going through any type of shift and really identify where do you need help and where can a person help you design a life that makes sense for who you are becoming, but also makes sense for how you are wired. Because it's one thing when people give you help, but it's more specific when people give you help based on your strengths and your weaknesses. Because the strengths, many times you can get that part, but it's all the areas that you don't feel as weak, that don't feel as strong, or other areas that may be new, or maybe you have areas where I call them tender spots that you might need some support. So we need some support with strategic mapping. So we need community, we need strategic mapping. And the third thing I think is really helpful when I was going through my divorce, as well as I understand it to be supportive with when I'm working with many of my clients, is called anchoring, accountability anchoring. And that's when we have people in our life who remind us who we are and what we can do when we forget. We need people who are not what I call the perfection police. Those are people who are never helpful. They try to tell you how you need to do something better. Sometimes we just need people who are sacred witnesses to witness our journeys, to witness how we are navigating, to witness us changing and evolving to a new place, a new dimension, or a new version of ourselves. We all need people to tell us, listen, I see you. You got this. Keep going. And so when we look at different types of shift support, we need wisdom, we need strategy, we need sanctuary, and we need soul care, all wrapped up in some type of community or some type of sister circle. Because shift support is not a luxury. It is a lifeline. And it's a lifeline that you so desperately need when you feel as if you are sinking under the minutia, sinking under the expectations, sinking under the obligations of being what this season in your life demands you to be. So I want you to really think about your life, and I want you to think about how can you reframe strength and support so that it really nourishes your soul. For example, one of the things I had to get over in my life, it was this strong woman narrative. Because the strong woman narrative was seductive, but it's also very destructive. Because we have been taught that strength means doing everything by yourself without complaining. And it also means that asking for help is a sign of weakness or laziness or being undisciplined. And for Black women, these lies hit even harder because we are expected to carry our entire families, our communities, and our culture sometimes on our backs without breaking down. But that's not strength. That's suffering. Because real strength is about interdependence. It's about knowing that it's okay to reach out. It's about knowing that the lone wolf narrative and the strong Black woman myth and the I don't need anybody mindset, those are cultural lies that isolate us and rob us of our connection. It robs us of our humanity, our healing, and also getting some relief. And I just want to remind you again that nobody shifts alone. Nobody evolves alone. Nobody heals alone. Every transformation requires tenderness and teamwork. And asking for help doesn't mean you are failing or falling apart. It means that you are finally trusting yourself enough to be supported. And it takes a lot of trust in yourself and in others to allow them to support you. So I want you to reframe shifting, and I want you to remember that shifting in any aspect of your life doesn't mean you are breaking down. It means that you are becoming. Shifting is not proof that you are weak. It's proof that you are alive. Shift support does not mean that you should hide. It's a reason to reach out because you deserve to be seen. You deserve to be held. You deserve to be helped, not just because you are struggling, but because you are sacred. And so if you're shifting right now, whether you're shifting at your job, in your relationships, in your belief systems, in your health, I want you to know that you don't have to do this shift alone. You were not meant to move in isolation, and shift support is how you make and how I make sustainable change in our life. It's how we reclaim our energy. It's how we rise with less guilt and more grace and deeper guidance. So I want to ask you today, where are you shifting? Are you shifting at your job, in your relationships, in your family, in your belief system, in your workout routine? Where are you shifting? And if you are shifting, who have you decided you want to walk with you during the shift? Or who has volunteered to walk with you in this shift? Because if you're looking for support through coaching, reflection circles, or just sacred strategy, I would love for you to connect with me. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take the next step, because shifting is human and shifting happens, and you are worthy of support because you are divine. You are sacred, and you are worthy of being supported as you are shifting through whatever you are shifting through in your life. Thanks so much for listening to me. I want to remind you that shift happens in every aspect of our life. And the blessing is, when shift happens, you don't have to shift all alone. Thanks so much for listening. Let me know your thoughts. Send me an email at Sharron@SharronJamison.com. And again, thanks so much for listening to me as we all endeavor to shift in our lives so that we can be the highest and the healthiest people and versions of ourselves, and we can dare to soar higher. Blessings.